Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for attending. My name's Steph Carroll. You will first hear an introduction related to selecting interpreter channels and language justice before we will come back to me, and then we will move into our presentation with Elizabeth Gonzalez. But for now, over to JE.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Steph Carroll y les quiero dar la bienvenida. Lo primero que vamos a hacer es escuchar una pequeña presentación acerca de la justicia del lenguaje y la interpretación para el día de hoy, y luego vamos a seguir con la presentación de Elizabeth González, pero en este momento vamos a empezar la orientación hacia la justicia del lenguaje. Bienvenidos, soy Jenna Leana. Estoy aquí hoy con mis cointérpretes para interpretar entre inglés, español y el lenguaje de señas estadounidense, trabajando con un marco que se llama la justicia del lenguaje.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Jenna Leana. I'm here today with my co-interpreters to interpret between English, Spanish, and ASL, working within a framework called language justice.
La justicia del lenguaje incluye el compromiso de asegurarnos de que todas las personas puedan participar en la conversación y un respeto para los derechos lingüísticos de todas las comunidades.
Language justice includes the commitment to ensuring that all people can participate in the conversation and a respect for the linguistic rights of all communities.
Para acceder a los subtítulos en inglés, haga clic en el enlace que encontrará en el chat. Por favor, avísenos si necesita apoyo en acceder al enlace. Y un aviso, esta sesión está siendo grabada.
To access captions in English, follow the link that you'll find in the chat. And please let us know if you need support accessing the link. And a note that this session is being recorded.
La presentación de hoy tomará lugar en inglés y durante la sesión de preguntas y respuestas usaremos inglés, español y el lenguaje de señas estadounidense activamente. Las personas que prefieren escuchar en español o inglés podrán escoger su canal de idioma en unos pocos momentos.
Today's presentation will take place in English, and during the Q&A session, we'll use English, Spanish, and ASL actively. And people who prefer to listen in Spanish or English will be able to select their language channel in a couple moments.
Hoy estaremos usando la función de interpretación de Zoom que ya está activada. Verá un icono del mundo o la palabra más, more en inglés, en la parte inferior de la pantalla. Pulse en más y verá un menú que incluye la opción de interpretación de idiomas o Language Interpretation en inglés. Para escuchar la interpretación, pulse el icono del mundo o interpretación de idiomas. A continuación, elija su canal de idioma. Si está en un teléfono o tableta, haga clic en Listo. Si no puede escuchar la intérprete en su canal, por favor pida ayuda en el chat o levante la mano.
Today we'll be using the Zoom interpreting feature, which has already been activated. You will either see a globe icon or a button with the word More and 3 dots at the bottom of your screen. Click the icon of the globe or More, and you'll see a menu that includes an option for interpretation. To listen to the interpreting, click the globe icon or interpretation, and then choose your language channel. If you are using a phone or tablet, click Done. If you can't hear the interpreter on your channel, please ask for help in the chat or raise your hand.
Ahora vamos a comenzar la interpretación simultánea para hacer una prueba de la función de interpretación. Por favor, elija su canal de idioma si prefiere escuchar la interpretación en inglés o español.
We will now start simultaneous interpreting to test the interpreting feature. Please choose your language channel if you want to hear the interpreting into English or into Spanish.
First, I'm going to speak a little bit in English, and I'm going to hope that someone will give me a thumbs up if they can hear in the Spanish channel. Y ahora estoy hablando en español.
And now I'm speaking in Spanish,
Que me pueden escuchar en el
and I
canal
hope
del
that you
inglés.
can hear me
Muchísimas
on the
gracias,
English
Steph.
channel. Thank you,
Usaremos
Steph.
la interpretación simultánea
We
para
will
el
be
resto de
using
este
simultaneous
anuncio.
interpreting for the rest of this
Ahora,
announcement.
todas las personas que prefieren participar
Now,
en
all
un
of the
solo
people who
idioma
prefer
deben
to
estar en
participate
un
in a
canal de
single
idioma.
language should be on a language
Las
channel.
personas que hablan ambos idiomas, inglés y
People who
español,
speak
pueden
both
dejar la
languages, English
función
and
de
Spanish,
interpretación
can leave the
apagada o
feature
elegir un
off,
canal de
or
idioma.
you can choose a
Si
language
usted no
channel.
puede escuchar la intérprete,
If you
use
cannot
la
hear the
caja de chat
interpreter, use
para
the
pedir
chat
ayuda.
box to ask for help.
Es responsabilidad de todos
It is
cuidar de la
everybody's
comunicación equitativa en
responsibility
un espacio
to
multilingüe.
create a
Quisiéramos compartir unos
an equitable
recordatorios de
communication in a
comunicación.
multilingual space, and we'd
Si
like to
usa un
share
canal de
some
idioma, por
reminders for
favor, hable en
communication.
ese
If
idioma.
you are on a language
Haga
channel,
clic
please
en
speak in that
silenciar audio
language.
original si prefiere
You can
escuchar
click on
solamente
mute
al
original
intérprete.
audio if you prefer to
Por
listen
favor,
just to
silencie
the
su
interpreter.
micrófono cuando no esté
Please
hablando.
keep your mic on mute when you are
Hable a un
not
ritmo
speaking.
moderado y haga pausas con
Please keep a
frecuencia.
moderate pace and
Favor de decir
pause
su
frequently.
nombre antes de hablar.
Please say your name before
Solamente una
speaking.
persona debe hablar a la vez.
Only one person, please
Y
speak at a
use la
time,
caja de chat para
and
recibir
use the
ayuda.
chat box to ask for help.
Las personas que entienden español
People
habrán
who
notado que
understand
usamos
Spanish
la terminación
will
E
have
en
observed that we
vez
are
de la
using
tradicional
the
A
E
o O.
ending
Por
instead
ejemplo,
of the
cuando
traditional A or
dijimos
O ending.
bienvenides
For
al
example,
inicio.
when we said
No es un
bienvenides
error de
at the beginning.
pronunciación, sino
This is
un
not a
esfuerzo
mistake in the
intencional de crear
pronunciation.
espacios
Rather, it's an
inclusivos y
intentional
educar,
effort to
suponer el
create
género de
inclusive
las
spaces
personas.
and to avoid making assumptions
Quisiéramos
about people's
reconocer todos
gender.
los idiomas que se usan aquí,
We would like
incluyendo
to
los
recognize
idiomas
all
de los
the
pueblos
languages that are
indígenas
used here,
de las tierras
including
no cedidas
indigenous
que cada
languages
persona
from
aquí habita.
unceded territories where all of us
Damos la
are
bienvenida al
living.
uso de lenguas más allá de las que
We
estamos
are
interpretando
welcome to the
hoy.
use of other
Favor de
languages
autointerpretarse si
other than
desea
Spanish,
hacerlo.
English, and ASL. Please
Gracias a los organizadores de
self-interpret
este
if you are
espacio por
using
hacer
another
posible que
language.
estemos aquí.
Thank you
Nos
to
da
the
mucho gusto
organizers
poder
of this
apoyar esta
space for
conversación, ya
making
que
it possible for
sentimos
us to be here.
una fuerte
We are very
solidaridad
happy to
con
be
el
able to
trabajo
support this
que hacen.
conversation since we feel a strong solidarity with the work that you do.
Thank you, JE. Hi again, everyone. I'm Steph Carroll. I'm the Directing Attorney of the Consumer Rights and Economic Justice team here at Public Counsel. This series of webinars is brought to you by a collaborative of legal services organisations, including Tzedek, East LA Community Corporation, Housing and Economic Rights Advocates, the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles, the National Housing Law Project, Neighbourhood Legal Services of LA, One Justice, and Public Counsel. Tonight is the second webinar in our consumer series focused on bankruptcy. After the presentation, we'll do our best to answer any questions that there are. Our preference is for you to share your questions by typing them in the chat or in the Q&A section of the screen in English or Spanish. If you prefer to sign or speak your question, please raise your hand and we'll give you permission to open your microphone or video to share your question. Please note that this is a Know Your Rights presentation and is not intended to be legal advice. If you have a legal problem, you should consult with an attorney separately. As you know, this session is being recorded in English and Spanish. When we're sharing our screens, you will see the slides and the presenter side by side. You can use the white tab in the middle of the screen as a slider to shift the side of the screen share to the screen or the speakers. Public Counsel is committed to providing language justice. Please bear with us if there are any delays or technical glitches. And now I'd like to introduce our guest speaker tonight, Elizabeth Gonzalez. Elizabeth is a senior supervising attorney and our resident bankruptcy expert with the Consumer Rights and Economic Justice team. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Thank you. So tonight we're going to talk about the risks and alternatives to bankruptcy for disaster survivors. The first thing that I just want to acknowledge is those of you who have survived this disaster are going through a lot, and you are getting a lot of information. One of the things that we want to make sure you understand is that you should really take care of yourself first. You are getting a lot of information, and it's important to be careful when you're making important big decisions. There are a lot of important decisions that you have to make right now. Bankruptcy is not one of these decisions. Just know that the option to file a bankruptcy, it's going to be here in 6 months, in a month, in a year, in 5 years. You can and you should take your time to decide if bankruptcy is right for you. It's important to remember that if you cannot afford to pay your credit cards or your personal loans, don't. There are state and federal laws that can protect you, your income, and your bank account. You'll notice
Interpreter switch, please.
that I haven't started talking about the risks and alternatives to bankruptcy quite yet. Before you really think about moving forward with the bankruptcy, please seek help. Please contact organizations that offer bankruptcy clinics where you can speak to bankruptcy attorneys for free. I've put 2 of such organizations who work in Los Angeles County on the slide below. Please make an appointment. Bankruptcy is a really, really big financial decision, and it can impact your life for at least 10 years. One of the reasons that we are hearing from individuals about bankruptcy is that maybe they're worried about paying their mortgage on a home that was damaged or destroyed by the fires. And maybe folks are also worried about being able to afford to pay your mortgage and find a place to rent or stay while your home is being repaired. Before considering bankruptcy, call your servicer, your mortgage servicer, and explain your situation. Many banks are offering disaster relief options. Ask about these. This could include a temporary pause or reduction in your mortgage payments, and that's called a forbearance. This is not automatic. You have to request it from your servicer. You may have heard about banks offering disaster relief options, but it's important to remember you have to reach out to them to actually get those options in your loan. The other thing you might be worried about is paying your property taxes, figuring out how to start a homeowner's claim, homeowner insurance claim. You can request a reassessment of your property taxes, and you should contact your homeowner's insurance company to start that claims process. These actions can actually help you with your concerns about being able to afford your mortgage and your property taxes. So some of you may also have car loans that you're worried about paying. Similar to a mortgage, if you are having trouble paying your car loan, reach out to the lender. See if they have some options for you. And if your car was damaged or destroyed in the fires, reach out to your car insurance company. Start the claims process. It's not necessary to file a bankruptcy if you're not able to make a payment on your car. I'm starting with houses and cars because a lot of times people don't realize that when you file a bankruptcy, if you want to keep your home or the land, you will have to continue making payments on your mortgage during the bankruptcy. The same is true for your car. If you have a car loan and you want to keep the car, you will have to continue making car payments while you are in bankruptcy. So if you're not able to make these payments, bankruptcy is not going to help you with whatever goal you might have. even if your home was damaged or destroyed, you still have valuable assets that you might lose if you file a bankruptcy. You still have the land. You might have potential insurance payments, your vehicles, other relief funds, like your GoFundMe, like friends and family helping you. If you file a bankruptcy, you may lose all or part of these assets. Credit cards might be another thing that you're worried about. Remember to take care of yourself first. If you cannot make payments on your credit cards, reach out to the credit card company. See if they have any options for you. If they don't have any options for you, you might not be able to pay those credit cards, and that's okay. Even if you can't pay your credit cards, you may not have to file a bankruptcy. If you're worried that if you don't pay your credit cards, someone's going to be able to take money from your paycheck or from your bank account, there are state and federal laws that can protect those things. The presentation that we did on January 30th has more information on managing debt and debt collectors when you are a survivor of a disaster. Please view that for more information. Getting to some of the risks of a bankruptcy. If you file a bankruptcy, your credit cards are going to be closed. You don't get to keep any, not even your favorite one, not even the Target card. It's going to be closed. The bankruptcy filing will be added onto your credit report, and it will be on your credit report for 10 years. That, along with the fact that you are in bankruptcy, is going to make it difficult to obtain affordable credit, and it might even make it difficult to qualify to rent. So especially if you are looking to file a bankruptcy in order to be able to afford to find a new place to rent, the bankruptcy might actually make that hard for you. Like I said earlier, you might lose property that you have, insurance proceeds that either you have or that you might be receiving. The same with GoFundMe, the car or cars that you own, the land that you own. If you owe money to friends or family, those people will have to be listed in your bankruptcy, and they will get notice that you filed a bankruptcy. So think about whether you want that to happen before you file a bankruptcy. Just like you are going to lose all of your credit cards, you have to include them all. You have to include all of your debt. You don't get to pick which debt you want to include in your bankruptcy and which debt you don't want to include. You have to list it all. Something that is very important. If you have given or transferred anything of value in the last 10 years and you file a bankruptcy, you and or the person that received that property may have legal problems in the bankruptcy. This is even if you were ordered to transfer it because of a divorce court order or because you gave it to a family member as a gift. It is very difficult to help someone who transferred a home, for example, 2 years ago in a bankruptcy, in a divorce, and see that the ex-spouse who received the home and didn't file for bankruptcy now risks losing that home. So please consider everything that you have transferred or given away in the years, 5 years, 4 years, 10 years prior, before you file a bankruptcy. So if I'm telling you all of these risks for a bankruptcy, what are some alternatives? You can reach out to your mortgage servicer or car loan company for those options. And that's something you should do. If you have questions about being able to afford a mortgage, reach out to a HUD-approved housing counselor for other options. If creditors are harassing you, you can send a no-contact letter. You might qualify for benefits now that you didn't qualify for 2 months ago. So apply. You might be able to get help buying food, getting unemployment, and maybe that extra assistance will help you be able to pay the car loan or the mortgage. Call 211 for immediate referrals. If you received a lawsuit, please review the presentation that was offered January 30th to get more information on what to do if you were sued. And I'm going to sound like a broken record, Before you consider filing a bankruptcy, contact a nonprofit legal services organization for help. There are 2 links at the bottom of this slide to 2 organizations in Los Angeles County that can help talk you through a bankruptcy or help you with debt collection issues. And that's what I have for you today. Here are some additional resources that will help with longer videos on whether bankruptcy makes sense. The no contact letters that I mentioned, there are links to both English and Spanish versions that you can send out to your creditors. And these are also links to apply for free assistance.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. I just wanted to reiterate that various different legal services organizations have been involved in this collaborative. The one tonight was presented by Public Counsel, and we are there at the bottom of the list on the screen. If you have any feedback for us, please send it to G Guidetti, that's GUIDETTI at publiccounsel.org. That is publiccounsel.org. I'm also going to drop into the chat a website for Public Counsel where you can access other fire recovery resources. This series of presentations, so far last week, we had a session for homeowners related to mortgages and insurance, followed by a session related to debt collection on Thursday, and the recordings for those are or soon will be available on the Public Counsel website. Yesterday, we had a session with the Los Angeles County tax assessor related to property tax. And again, those recordings will be available soon. Next week coming up, we have a presentation about homeowners associations and how tenants in those homeowners associations may be facing issues after the fire disaster and what they can do. And in addition, we will be having a consumer presentation on Thursday related to student loans for disaster survivors. So I hope you join us then. I will open it up in case there are any questions. I am seeing none. Elizabeth, anything further to add?
I had hoped there would be some questions. What I might just add is bankruptcy is not the solution that a lot of people think it is. One of the great things about living in California is there are very strong protections from debt collectors. What you should be worrying about right now is your mortgage and your home, your car, and those things, those worries, get worse when you file a bankruptcy. It's very hard sometimes for people to accept that they don't have to pay their credit cards or their loans. Or if you don't want the car anymore, that you don't have to keep making that payment. I have never met somebody who says, I am so happy not to have to pay this debt. I never meant to pay it anyway. Most of the time, the people I see are paying money to debt that they cannot afford to pay and that would be protected under state and federal laws. Please don't do that. Companies understand that sometimes people cannot pay. You are going to be worrying much more about your credit card debt than the credit card company is going to be worrying about you. That's why I started by reminding you to take care of yourself first and not make these huge financial decisions about bankruptcy right now. We encourage you to speak with one of the bankruptcy clinics to give you more specific individual information.
I have a question for you, Elizabeth.
Yes.
The question is, if I can't afford my mortgage and I file bankruptcy, can I keep my land/equity in my home and my mortgage debt will be forgiven?
No. A mortgage is what is known as a secured debt. It's attached to the home or the land. If you want to keep that home or land, you have to continue making payments, whether or not you file a bankruptcy. If you don't pay and you file a bankruptcy, your mortgage company is going to take or foreclose on the land or the home. Mortgage debt is not forgiven in a bankruptcy. And if you have a second mortgage or a home equity line of credit, the same is true. I hope that answered that question.
Thank you, Elizabeth. If there are any more questions, feel free to raise your hand or put them in the Q&A. Also, Gerlandi has put in the chat the YouTube channel where you can access recordings, previous recordings, and you will be able to access this one. I have another question that has come in. I'm using one of my credit cards to pay for day-to-day expenses. Can I keep that credit card if I file for bankruptcy? I want to get all my other credit card debt forgiven.
No. So like I said earlier, the minute that you file a bankruptcy, or very close to that time, all of your credit cards are going to be closed. You don't get to pick which card you want to include or not include. So if you cannot pay for your daily expenses without using credit cards or loans, do not file a bankruptcy. Bankruptcy doesn't create income. So if you're not able to pay for your day-to-day expenses, that's not going to change when you file a bankruptcy. If you are making payments on your credit cards, especially if you're only making the minimum payment,
Si usted está haciendo pagos en su tarjeta de crédito, especialmente si únicamente está haciendo los pagos mínimos, piensen cuánto está pagando usted a estas tarjetas de crédito cada mes.
Wait a minute, Elizabeth, please. I think there was some Spanish on the English channel then. Carry on and we'll see.
Most people making those minimum payments are paying $200 to $300 to $400 a month on those credit cards. Consider taking, instead of paying those minimum payments, use that money for yourself, for your family, for food, for gas. That might be enough to make you realize you don't actually need the bankruptcy. If you just stopped paying the credit cards, you might not even have to use the credit cards anymore because you have this money that you were using to pay some minimum payments that was all going to interest. I don't see any other questions.
Nor do I. So with that, I want to say thank you very much to Elizabeth, our wonderful presenter, and also a big thank you to our wonderful language justice interpreting team. We hope to see you again next week. Thank you.